I would like to start this. We're going to use the chat immediately, and I would like to start with a warm-up question in a way. It's a question that doesn't have to do with English language teaching. It's a question that doesn't have to do with methodology, but it's a question that I will try to link it with today's seminar. And to me, to tell you the truth, is really, really very important, because lately I deal a lot with positive education. I deal a lot with positive feelings in the classroom. So I would like to ask you directly, and I would expect for your answers in the chat. Thank you. Saturday and Sunday, weekend, which are the days off in the whole world that are days off for everyone, and you are not allowed to do anything at all? Yes, 1st of May, New Year Day, Teachers Day, Saturday and Sunday. I'm afraid no. I know that many teachers ask that. New Year, May 1. Weekend, no, it's not that, Think a little bit more. New Year, our birthday and our funeral, no. Labor Day, holiday, no. I'm looking for something else here. Come on, you are almost 800 people there. Christmas, no. It doesn't have to do with religion, celebration, or something like that. Labor Day, no. Birthday, no, not any. No, there are 2 days. Let's see. No, Sunday, 1st of May, no. The days you are allowed yourself to relax. Okay, not that close. Rest Day, Easter, New Year, Christmas. Okay, let me show you the answer. And the answer does not come from me. The answer comes from one of the masters of philosophy, from Mahatma Gandhi, that actually he said, there are 2 days in the year that we cannot do anything. Yesterday and tomorrow. Mahatma Gandhi. And I want you to keep this in your mind, because this is in a way something that it's linked to life, but it can be also linked to our teaching. And it has to do with the values that we use in our classrooms every single day. The values shape today. It doesn't matter about tomorrow, because tomorrow you cannot control. You never know what is going to come. And, the past is gone. You cannot change it at the same time. So my point today is that I will try to focus on these 90 minutes that we have here. So to get the best, because this is something that I can control. This is something that I can do. And we will talk more about this when we will talk about values in the classroom and how they can be inspired. What counts is today. This is not only something said by positive psychology. This is said, it's a general rule of life. So the more we focus on today, the more we focus on becoming better on what we do, the more we focus on enriching our classes with positive feelings or effective teaching as well. This will definitely affect our students' characters. It will affect their career. It will affect, in a way, the future. But we don't have to think about the future. We need to focus on today. That's the first thing that I would like to give you for tomorrow. And keep at the back of your head that this refers mostly to the values that we have in our lives. These are the values that we need to form in our classes. But we will get to that in a minute. Getting into actual teaching and getting into more ELT methodology issues, I would like to quote from 2 gentlemen that I had the chance to meet, and that after reading many of their books, they are like masters of teaching. They are masters of neuroscience, masters of psychology, of cognitive psychology, and I'm sure you may know them, or you may have read some of their books. However, these 2 giants, let's say, of cognitive psychology, of cognition, and of learning, they have used in 2 different contexts, 2 different phrases and sentences, one same word, the word that you can see right now on the screen, understanding. The first one is Stephen Krashen. Stephen Krashen deals a lot with reading, with extracurricular reading. He deals a lot with many articles on how we learn better. And when we had another webinar, and he was one of our guests with Express Publishing, the first line that he said during the webinar, once it was open, was, "You cannot learn something without having understood it first." It was a very, very simple phrase, but I think it included all the essence of learning. What's the point of learning something if you cannot understand it? Or how can you possibly learn something if you haven't understand it first? I mean, this is something that I think every single teacher should keep in his mind, that yes, we teach, we give everything possible, we try really hard, but if the students cannot understand what we teach, this is pointless. There is no value in it. This won't lead anywhere. So I think as teachers, we always need not to forget this. I'm doing my job, I'm giving everything, but it's important for the students to understand. And Howard Gardner in 1983, in this amazing book, which is called Frames of Mind, talking about education, he actually repeated this very same phrase. The basic goal of education should be understanding, not the curriculum, not the subjects. Yes, obviously, the teacher's effort counts as well, but it's important that everything that we teach is understood. So my focus, and I will take this general mantra, if I'm allowed to say, or saying, or mindset, or mentality, or opinion, or theory, and I will try to apply today to today's seminar and today's classroom. And my second, let's say, opinion or idea for today is, if you ever catch yourself teaching something that your students cannot understand, try to repeat it. Try to say it again. Try again. You know, people are not robots. Sometimes they need to repeat something again and again and again in order to be understood. But I think this should be our priority as educators and as teachers. And in order to be more specific, you have possibly seen in my CV, I don't know if you got all in the introduction, that I've been working for Express Publishing for 23 years. And one of the main reasons that this is happening is that this company can actually support a very effective methodology and technique. I'm not saying that we have rediscovered America here, and I'm not saying that we are the only people or publisher that is doing this. But keeping this piously, keeping this in every possible book, respecting, having it in mind, this specific framework that you can see on your screen has actually guaranteed and has actually proved throughout all these years that we have very effective materials. In other words, it's practically impossible to use an Express Publishing book and not to learn how to speak, how to write, and how to learn English in general. And I do believe that one of the main reasons that this is happening is that we stick to this effective methodology technique that you can see right now on your screen. These specific 3 stages. Presentation. We always need to ensure a very great and effective presentation of our materials. Control practice, which means that after you present something, you need to be able to control it in a secured environment. So the students will feel safe. So the students will know exactly what to say. And then, of course, production. I always say, if you want to visualize this, think, those of you who are parents, how you teach your kid to ride a bike. In the beginning, you give him a presentation of the bike. You say, this is the wheel, these are the 2 wheels, this is the steer, this is where you can actually ride, this is how you do it. You give a simple presentation, a simple description. Then with the control practice, the kid rides the bike, starts pedaling, but you are always there. You are always there, let alone that you may be adding these 2 small helping, assisting wheels at the back wheel of the bike, because that's exactly what control practice is. I'm doing it, but the teacher is always next to me. The teacher is always there to help. And then the production is when you remove the 2 helping wheels from the back and your kid is ready to ride. He's ready to ride and go wherever he likes. That's exactly the analogy with learning a foreign language. You start gradually, you start step by step, but eventually what you need to have in mind, and you are doing all this, is that your kid goes out of the classroom and starts communicating in fluent English. This is the meaning of all this point. This is the understanding that we saw in the beginning by these two gentlemen. And how is this ensured? I'm going to show you a very typical primary lesson that it has never ever failed me. It has never ever failed me. I don't want you to stick and simply, follow necessarily or do any single of these particular exercises, because the exercises may vary. What I want you to keep in mind are the 3 steps that we saw before, these. And these steps, as I said, are kept very, very specifically throughout the whole lesson. So I'm having this lesson. This is from the 4th grade, let's say, book, which we're talking about primary. Before I start the lesson, it's imperative, it's absolutely necessary to present the key vocabulary. Not all the vocabulary needed, but the key vocabulary is important to be there. We call this in coaching mode like signposting. It always has to be there as a point of reference. And that's the first thing that you need to clarify. Unknown keywords that you want your students to remember after the end of the lesson. This is pivotal. This is like number 1. So how do I do this? The classic way to do it is what you can see right now, the picture. Picture and prompt. Picture and prompt. So by having the picture, I don't have to use L1, because obviously I don't know what's the name of, how do you call it in Vietnamese or province, but you can see it from the picture. So you don't have to use L1 here. You have the picture doing the trick for you. And point and repeat. Listen, point, and repeat 2 times, 3 times maybe, as long as it's necessary for the kids to understand and realize what the meaning of these words are. Now, this is just an option which is found in the book. If you have, for example, a unit that talks about fruits or vegetables, maybe it's a very good idea that you bring the very same fruits in the classroom. Or if you have vocabulary that refers to things that you can see some real representation inside the classroom, like a door or a chair or a light or whatever, then maybe you can actually point from the objects that you have around. Any kind, picture or real object association with a noun vocabulary, you cannot imagine how it helps your student to retain this. So I cannot move on without having presented the vocabulary, and that's a couple of ways that I have just told you. Later on, you will see that Express Publishing and DTP is offering also wonderful technological solutions for the flow of the lesson. These are not gimmicks. These are not simply tricks to increase sales. This is actual educational software that will help you deliver the lesson. And I can show you by the end of this presentation, how you can do that. But back to the methodology. I have presented the vocabulary, and then I'm starting the phase of control practice. Keep in mind that control practice is something that may take you 5 to 7 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, or even 2 or 3 exercises. Or it may take you even, the rest of the entire lesson. When does this stop? It stops when you know and you understand that the students have understood their known vocabulary. This is when it stops. And that's why I told you that if this moment never comes, you need to repeat again and again. Okay, I understand that there might be pressure. I understand that there might be somebody who actually puts pressure on finishing the syllabus. But even if you do that, what's the point if the students haven't understood what you have taught before? So the basic thing that I would do after presenting the vocabulary would be to listen and repeat. Very controlled practice. Where do you live? I live in a big city. You make the exchanges and you try to use as many of the words previously presented in that exercise, in exercise 1. Okay, but you are there. They see, they have the model, they know what to say. It's impossible for them to miss it. I continue my control practice. Look at exercise 1, point, ask and answer with your friend. You see that the model is there, as I said before. The second exercise was simply listen and repeat. You may use some L1 here. We are not demonizing this practice as well. If the student still cannot understand what a village is in English, you may use the L1. It's perfectly acceptable. And, now there are so many articles and a new trend. We used actually to penalize that. But now it might be acceptable if it facilitates the flow of the lesson. I want you to keep exercise 4 because I will make a specific comment later on. But at this specific part of the presentation, just keep that this is another exercise where the students feel the control practice scheme. They listen, they match, they point, they ask and answer with their friend. You see how much interaction it exists and how much use of this control practice of this specific vocabulary. So by the time that I reach exercise 4, I have repeated the 4 key words at least 5 times. It's very difficult for me not to remember them and not to retain them after that. And because we all want to end the lesson on a high note, obviously, always, either, in our books or this is a tip that I can give you to all of you that it's primary, you need to end on a high note. You need to end with a song. You need to end with a game. Excuse me. You need to end with something that will make the students live with a smile. But that's not only that. It's also about integrating this game, integrating this song with the rest of the things that you have presented. So this is not just a song to have a good time. This is a song, yes, to have a good time, but at the same time, repeating the vocabulary we presented in the beginning of the lesson. I talked to you about express publishing and about the methodology, and I would like to make a special comment. In a way, I would like to give you this as a challenge. I want you to open any book from Express or DTP and try, to see the coherence and the sequence between the tasks. One task leads to the other. No tasks are there for no particular reason. There is let's say, a whole entity of a lesson that does make sense and actually yields these productive results. And of course, here, there's a phonics corner that I'm going to refer later on. But here we have seen so far the presentation and the control practice in one lesson. The same continues throughout the whole book. Presentation and control practice is a mathematical type, if you want an equation, if you want to call it, that will actually save you a lot of time. It will provide a lot of security, and in a way, it will be a guarantee for learning. Even if the lesson advances, even if the book advances, and if you have, the material and the level increases, still, this can be a guarantee for you. And I'm going to analyze in a minute what and get even deeper to that, because there are certain parameters that we need to have in mind. And I told you that I'm not going to talk that much about this control practice idea of this particular exercise. You remember in the unit that we analyzed, we saw exercise 4. And maybe you can see that I have gathered on this slide so many other different exercises numbered 4, 4, 4, 4, and we have to 5 that we will make a special reference. Why I did that? Because these exercises come from the exact part of the lesson that refers to control practice, but in the following units. I mean, so far I have presented the vocabulary, I have done some listen and repeat. This is the task where the students for the first time are about to use it and start thinking of providing a more free context within the control context. But my point is not that. My point is that after all this experience, I have, in a way, raised up and brought up as a teacher, trainer, and I have listened many times to this comment that I think it's a myth, that a good book is made by the topics, that a good book is made by illustrations, that a good book is made by the digital support. This may stand, but I don't share this opinion, because I think that a good book is all about the tasks. No matter if you have a colorful book full of resources, with animation, with the other, with digital, if the tasks are not attractive for the students, it's very improbable that this will actually keep the interest of the students. What makes a book good, what makes a book effective, is the variety that you have within the task. That's why I have isolated these particular exercises. Look at exercise 4, the first one. Look, read, write, ask and answer with your friends. You have 4 different commands. You have 4 different tasks within the very same task. Let's have a look at this one. Read, choose, point, ask and answer with your friend. Both of these, like this one, listen and write, ask and answer with your friend, ask and answer with your friend. They end up in the very same result of control practice. But before this, I'm adding a little bit of variety. It's not simply read and say. It's not simply listen and repeat. I have done this previously. It's like immersing into the very same task itself. And having provided all the previous steps, having provided all this clear landscape for the students, it's very easy for them to start gaining confidence, my friends. That's why I'm telling you this. You are subconsciously or consciously building up on the confidence of your students, because each one of the students who can actually do a task like this, that might seem a little bit complicated, gains up confidence, feels better. Oh, I can do it. I know how to speak English. I manage, to look, read, underline. That's my process. The teacher simply shows the path. The teacher simply shows the way, shows the direction. But the students will do these tasks. And when they finish them, when they realize them, when they understand them, as I said before, everything is going to be very easy. And of course, don't think that it's only about what you can see on the screen. When I say variety of tasks, I mean variety of tasks. I mean different variations can actually occur. Draw a sign, ask and answer with your friend. It can be an option as well, because you may have kinesthetic learners, you may have people or students who express themselves better with a pen or a pencil or with a crayon, and they may want to be more artistic, more creative. So never underestimate the power of the variety of tasks. Is really, really important. Now, the next stage has to do with production. And when I talk production, I will use again this idea of, of the different tasks. I'm going to refer to this more extensively for later on. For the time being, what is important here for me is that we start entering the phase of production and activation, okay? And in order to show you how guided this is, that's why I have put these 2 rubrics together, these 2 sections together. Here you have the unknown words that supposedly I have presented to you before. Now we move from city, province, town, village to quiet, beautiful, noisy, and crowded. But you start seeing what we call a solid text. I think this is a great progress and a great advance, and another great reason why I love express publishing material. This is the 4th grade of primary. Your students need to get used not only to dialogues, not only to simple lines, not only to simple, let's say, exchanges like listen and repeat. Their eyes, their mind, their training needs to get accustomed to solid text. Why? Because these are the texts that they will find in exams later on, not only in English, even in Vietnamese. This is exactly the format that becomes part of composition. This is what they request when they will go out to work for a company and use English as a written form, a solid text, to be able to read it, to understand it, let alone produce it. So you are also working in an undercurrent way towards this direction. I don't like books that they start these solid texts after the 7th or 8th grade because they think that the kids are not that mature to deal with it. This is completely wrong. And I think this is a great underestimation and undermining of the students' minds. The students can do many things when they have the right guidance. So let's have a look at the chat. Who can give me the first word from number 1? Hello, my name is Kim, I live in a village. It's, who can actually give me the word? Come on, beautiful. Dongling, thank you. Beautiful, wonderful. What about number 2? And quiet, wonderful. It isn't. Number 3, crowded, wonderful. Or noisy. Yes, somebody is in a hurry. Wonderful. But you can see that the very same way that you so easily responded to a foreign language without having presented before, that's exactly what I want the students to do. Okay, having the guidance and reach these answers just like that so easily, because it's this sense that I can do it. I can do it, and I have managed. This is an open-close text. And if you want me to give you statistics, this is 90% of the exercises that your students will face if they sit for any international exam. That's a very, very common type of exercise, and you're getting your students trained from that, starting from this particular level. Now, talking about phonics, I know DTP also has a wonderful phonics section and phonics books. Also, I know that there might be specific programs that dedicate themselves completely into phonics, but this is a matter in a way of syllabus. This is a matter of maybe somebody else's decision. Sometimes it's simply a matter of taste. You don't have to have an entire syllabus based on phonics, so to practice phonics. But if you want some good reasons for this to happen, I highly recommend it, because that's exactly how the native speakers learn their language. If you ask a native speaker, these are exactly the very same type of exercises that he or she would do as a student in a country like Australia or England or the United States. Okay, so yes to phonics, but when you opt for materials for express publishing, you will find the best of the integration that could possibly this section can have with the rest of the material. I mean, it's pointless if you simply introduce phonics in a way that is not related to what you teach all the rest of the days in the classroom. It has to be part of your lesson. It has to be part of your syllabus. It has to be part of what you have taught them before. Otherwise, they won't be able to understand it. And that's exactly what is happening here. That's why you have the phonics corner, where they get this listen and repeat, listen and practice. You can see that we use exactly the same words that we presented before. And this is another proof of how much of a good job our authors have actually done here, integrating even a specific phonics section within the flow of the unit. So rest assured that even if you don't use a specific or a separate book for phonics, that this section will do wonder for you. Okay, now I'm going to talk about grammar, but before I start talking about grammar, I would like to ask you some questions. Can you all see this picture? You can see this picture? Can you all see? Go and bring my slippers, says daddy to the daughter. Okay, now, fair enough. I have some questions for you that are going to appear on the screen, and I want you to answer in the chat. Question number 1. Does the girl understand the question? Yes or no? What do you think? Yes. No? Okay. No. It's not a question. Okay. Yeah. It's not a question, but it's a statement. Okay. The sentence. No. Somebody says nah. Yeah, yes. Somebody says no. Will the girl bring the slippers? What do you think? No. No. Yes. Okay. I wonder why the people who say no say that. It depends on the context. Yes. Okay. If you would actually ask this in Vietnamese, would he bring or she bring the slippers? Would your kid bring the slippers to you? The situation is that a father is asking his daughter to bring his slippers. That's the situation. Yes. Yes. Okay. That's what I think. The girl is focusing on her game. Okay. Let me ask you another question. Does the girl understand that go and bring are in imperative form? No, 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 no. Because it feels acceptable if it's an order. Okay. We took it maybe to a different level. Because here, to tell you the truth, if I say to my kid, go and bring my slippers in my own language, which is Greek, most probably the kid will go and bring the slippers. Okay. She does understand the order. He does understand my request, if you want to call it. Okay. It might be not necessarily a very polite request, but this is something that may happen between a father and a daughter. Okay. So the context, it doesn't seem that much of imperative into me. Okay. But I think that when the kid goes and brings the slippers, he doesn't understand that this is imperative. I will agree with the people who say no. She understands the sentence, the meaning of the sentence, but she doesn't understand that this is an imperative form. And this is exactly where I'm leading with my next slide. And it has to do with grammar. It has to do with grammar because I come from a background where my teachers were insisting a lot in grammar theory, but not in grammar understanding. So when I say to you, go and bring my slippers, chances are that you are going to do it, or that you are not going to do it because you don't want to, not because you haven't understood the question. But if I ask you whether you know what kind of grammatical form that phrase was, I don't think that you would be able to answer this if you were a kid, because you haven't learned this theory. So you see, sometimes it's happening the other way around. We insist so much on theory. We insist so much on, learning the rule, but not so much on understanding. And this brings me back again to what Stephen Krashen was saying. And that's my one and only tip when it comes down to grammar. Make sure that the students understand the meaning of grammar structures. Make sure that they understand what is the meaning of paint or painting, study and studying, this essence of duration. Make sure that they understand what are the usage in context. This is really important. And then you can move on with the theory. If they won't be able to understand what you teach regarding grammar, they will never, ever learn it. Because obviously, and this is something that you cannot actually penalize anybody or ask somebody to do or force somebody to do it. Your language may be completely different from English regarding structure. So it's very difficult for a non-native brain to understand certain usages in a foreign language. Okay, for example, in Russian there are no all these tenses. I know that Russian students struggle many times, with the tenses because they have only 3 different tenses in Russian, or there might be some tenses in English that do not exist in Vietnamese or in Greek. Okay, so that's why when you present grammar, make sure that you explain clearly what this is all about. That's golden rule number 1. Golden rule number 2 is that even if they understand, even if you present clearly, there has to be a part of grammar activation. Grammar activation and practice, which means that you need to put in a productive form what they have learned. You need to put in a productive communicative context, grammar. So this might be a composition, this might be a small paragraph, this might be some exchanges. Always, this is my tip for grammar: explain and make sure that they understand in practice what the theory is all about. Then ask them to activate it, ask them to use it, and then you can go and use the theory as a review. If you still want to go through all the theory, all the rules that exist, they can be found at the back of this specific book or at any other source you want to take it from. But don't start with that, because it might be boring, it might not be very clear to them, and it might, not help them to grasp and understand what a grammar phenomenon or theory is. At least this is what has worked for me. And the other thing that I would like to share with you is what I was telling you before, that with express publishing at primary levels, you get this systematic development of writing skills starting from a very young age. There's another misconception among English teachers and specialists. We believe that writing in a foreign language or in our own language, it's just a matter of inspiration. It's just like you wake up one day and you write a novel or a poem or a text. It's not about that. When we say systematic, it means it's something that can start from complete zero as you learn how to write in your own native language. That's exactly the same mentality here. And never underestimate this function. This is number one request. This is number one demand when your students will go out in the market. This is part of communication. This is part of soft skills that are needed in between the companies. Your student will be needed to demonstrate his competency in English by writing clear English. So never underestimate this process, and never wait that this starts at a later stage, maybe at high school or later on. It needs to start from now. That is why it's important that the eye gets used to these solid texts, and that is why you start gradually teaching composition with the use of models. I mean, when I reach this point that I need to write this as an open-close text, this has always a model. Like here, I never leave my students alone. This model, you will find words that have been presented before, not only presented, but practiced as well. It's very easy for the student when you assign this to write the composition. And gradually, if this is part of your homework, if this is part of the tasks you request that they perform, it becomes like really, really easy. Talking about Mahatma Gandhi in the beginning and talking about the values and the focus on today, that's exactly what I think education should all be about. When we have the opportunity, and there is amazing bibliography and many articles that refer to that the English lesson, the English class has an amazing opportunity to offer different values to the students, integrated through the learning flow of any material. So that's exactly what we are doing here. We have the values corner, where we try simply to show the path to the students. If they're going to follow it is another story. We're not forcing anybody. But imagine having a lesson where you have just a small exercise using the vocabulary of the lesson to simply cultivate the idea of loving your family. Or that here is a community, a classroom that we have some rules that we all need to respect. Or the idea of compassion, that to help your classmate when he is needed to do that. These are the values that become our compass for today. That's why I started with this quotation. Values will help you make today better, not possibly the future that is going to come, because you cannot control it, or even the past, but it makes your daily routine, it makes your everyday life much better, and it robusts you for adversity. And I think this should be part of education or any class, no matter what the lesson might be. But here we have this unique opportunity as teachers of English to practice this even more. So that's why I link this to this specific idea. A very quick recap before I move on into my last idea for today. What we saw here today, we saw presentation, control practice, and production as the three pillars for a successful lesson. We spiced this up, and we always recommend that this is actually followed by activation and multisensory tasks. We talked about an integrated phonics section, which needs to be part of the flowing of the lesson. We talked about not only meaningful presentation of grammar, but also activation of grammar structures in oral and written form as well. And we talked about systematic development of writing, because this is a task that's going to be needed later on and even now in order to show and demonstrate competency in English. And of course, we talked about values as the compass for today. And for the last 5 minutes of this part of my presentation, I would like to quote from this amazing book by John Medina. John Medina is Howard Gardner student. He's one of the top neuroscientists right now in the world. And not only that, he's somebody who not only talks about the brain, but he talks about the brain in a very mundane, everyday language that everybody can understand him. And he transfers many of these ideas to education. The following statement does not come from me, it comes from him. Animation is the most effective delivery of information. In other words, if you want to intrigue somebody's brain to learn something, if you want someone to learn something, use animation, use animated material. And this is exactly what I would like to show you right now. I'm going to deviate for a while and share something else, because just for the 5 minutes that I have left, I would like to show you something that has actually glorified express publishing for many years now in the educational community, and has to do with interactive whiteboard software. At the same time, I'm going to show you that what you have seen and what exists on paper, it can also become digital. In other words, this is not just an extra supplementary material. The teachers who, of course, do have this resource, who do have the equipment, you don't even need an interactive whiteboard. You just need a projector in order to be able to project this, and everything will be fine. They can actually deliver the entire lesson through this software. And talking about animation, this is actually a story that has certain values, and it has a certain message, but it's fully animated with a very, very high quality video that I would like to share with you just for a few minutes so you can see what I'm talking about.
Extra, where are we? Extra, where are we?
Welcome to the planet Zicom. Hello, Extra.
Hello, Ziggy. These are my friends.
Oscar, look. He hasn't got any hair. And he's got a blue nose.
Yes, I haven't got any hair. Can you help me, Extra?
Yes, I can. 1, 2, 3, hair!
Oh no! He's got hair on his arms and legs.
1, 2, 3, hair!
Now he's got hair on his face and body.
1, 2, 3, hair!
He's got hair, but it's red.
Oh, Ziggy, you've got fantastic red hair.
Differentiation, help from my friends, and some fun. This can be the message of the story. But to me, from the perspective of the teacher and delivering a lesson in 2023, what is important for me, my friends, is that you have this video available in your hands. And I think for free. to deliver your lesson, because that's exactly the most effective delivery of animation. We're talking about this very same text, about this very same story, but it's fully animated. Those of you who have young kids, maybe you do realize why the kids wake up on the weekend and they go and they become literally glued in front of the TV, because they actually love animation. Animation sparks the brain synapses. Animation helps you learn better. And just to show you what I was telling you before, here you can see the entire lesson. All the exercises are activated, all the stages we saw before. For example, you can actually present the vocabulary through the software.
Big sister, baby brother.
They can repeat it as many times as they wish. They can eliminate the words, so they can actually ask them to remember. It's super complete. Then the control practice I was telling you before, with the audio included.
Have you got any big sisters?
The more control practice I told you looked about the listening activity, more control practice, and the let's play the game I was telling you before. And of course, yes, don't forget the phonics sections. So you can see how well integrated they are.
This.
And the same stands for this lesson. You can see all the exercises are activated. I'm not going to tire you anymore. This lesson as well, and this lesson as well, where you have here the values and the written input and context, the composition. Here you can see that exercise was done by you. And of course, the value corner I was telling you before. The activity book is also activated. You have a word list as well, where they can see the words. And if they want, they can actually fill up the translation. And of course, you have also so many vocabulary ready-made games for you, because I would like to end on a high note.
Big
If
sister.
you find the words, you score the basket. The basketball, you score in the basketball game. If you make a mistake like now, you fail.
27.
Imagine how you can actually activate a whole classroom with this. And of course, last minute and last point, very important, natural flow of the language in all this conversation and dialogues. This is not wooden language. This is everyday situation, everyday language. It's simple, but not simplistic. That's another great plus of our Express Publishing materials, specifically at primary level.